Hodge, and I am going to be talking to you about the Agile Manager. So, in brief, I want to just discuss the Agile or the management trinity. So, the trinity is composed of three parts. There are one-on-ones, feedback, and delegation. And when you go to an Agile mindset, these things change fairly significantly. One-on-ones are typically done, say, every week. And in a traditional management mindset, that's where you give a lot of the feedback and where you do a lot of that delegation. When you switch to an Agile mindset, that you may be having them a little bit less frequently, and your focus of them will be changing significantly. You're less focused on task management in those one-on-ones because that's handled through the Scrum ceremonies or whatever Kanban methodology that you're using. And instead, you're more focused on building a relationship with the person, which is really the intent of a one-on-one, is to have a relationship between the employee and the manager. Because studies have shown that you get more out of employees that have a good relationship with their manager, and conversely, employees are more satisfied when they feel like they have a good relationship with their manager. So the main focus is building that relationship. So you want to open it up to talk about anything. And presumably that's work related, but not necessarily. There may be personal things that they need to discuss with the manager. So anyway, you have these one-on-ones. Maybe it's every other week, or for half an hour, or maybe you're spending a little bit less time on a weekly basis or something like that. The idea is you want regular touch to regularly touch base and to discuss with those employees. Have those discussions, build that relationship. And then that's where you can really lead into the second item, which is feedback. So feedback can be both constructive and positive, and you want to follow a standard format when giving feedback. Generally, the format you want to use is, first, can I give you some feedback? Assuming they respond affirmatively, then you will say, when you do this, this happens. You want to avoid blame with that. And that's not assigning blame, that's just saying, I see this cause and effect. It takes your observation out of it as much as possible. Of course, it's still a somewhat subjective process, but the idea is you want to make it as objective as possible. For instance, can I give you some feedback? Oh, sure. When you're late to the stand-ups, it makes the entire team have to wait, and it reduces the communication that they have. That's it. You don't have to tell them, would you do this or would you change that behavior? They will realize that, okay, I need a modification of my behavior, and you would, as a manager, typically take a note that you gave that person that feedback on such and such date. That way you can manage their performance and manage the feedback that you've given them over time. And then the third piece of delegation. Now, that changes dramatically when you shift to an Agile mindset. Because instead of being this task manager, you are delegating to the Agile teams. So as projects come along, you don't say, oh, well, I'll take that and have this individual do that. You say, okay, let's put that work on this team's backlog. So that's a very different type of discussion. And that's why you're not as busy in these one-on-ones with task management, is because you've shifted that responsibility to the backlog. So you want to be having discussions with the product owner on a regular basis to make sure that the things that you're getting are included into that workflow stream. You don't want to create a separate workflow stream of, oh, well, my manager told me to do this, because most individual contributors will say, well, if my manager told me to do it, that's the highest priority, more so than a product owner. So the idea is, let's make one stream of work that's prioritized together, and that is our backlog. And so there's really two pieces to the delegation. There's the work assignment piece, which again is broken up into the sprint backlog. And then there's this professional development piece. And that's still something that you want to be spending more time on. But it looks very different. It's not, okay, I want you to take this and do this and do that. It's, hey, you really should be providing leadership, or you should be standing up and taking ownership of different areas in these stand-ups. And, in the sprint planning, hey, maybe there's these new areas, and have some discussion of concrete areas, not assigning them to them, but suggesting areas in which they can grow their leadership experience and grow their technical ownership. And that then will enable them to develop in their career. So these are the three aspects of what they call the trinity. And like I said, this is just one piece of the agile management strategy that we're going to discuss in this talk. So thank you for considering the submission and look forward to seeing you at the conference.